morning, everyone, and welcome to Monday, November 16th of The Good Doctors Diagnose. My name is Dr. Donnelly, Dr. Kristen, whatever you want to go with. And today, I would like to talk about a recent obsession that I have. No, it's not recent. I've been into them forever. I am fascinated by cults. Something about how coercive control works. Obviously, as a religion scholar, I'm particularly interested in how people manipulate the idea of the transcendent and the idea of the divine, and how they use that to exert power over others. And the one that I've been on a deep dive about recently is NXIVM, or executive success programs, depending on what branch of it you're talking about. You may have heard of this. This is the one that is often in the news as the sex cult that the Smallville actress was a part of, Allison Mack. Recently, the founder, and literally he calls himself the Vanguard, Keith Raniere, was sentenced to 120 years in prison for a laundry list of crimes, including human trafficking, racketeering, I think tax fraud was in there, a whole lot of stuff. It seems like a large proportion of the people that were faithful to him have in fact defected or seen the light or what have you, and are speaking out about it. There's been 2 documentaries in the last couple months. One is on HBO called The Vow, 8, 9 parts, I can't remember. And that's told from the perspective of people who are like in it and then leaving it. Then there's one that came out on Starz, which is the one I'd like to talk about a little bit more today, called Seduced. You may not even know that you have Starz. You may accidentally have Starz. If you don't have Starz, there's free trials via Hulu. If you are interested at all in the idea of how humans control other humans, or how groupthink works, or what trauma recovery looks like, and how people navigate through those things, I can't recommend Seduced highly enough. It's 4 episodes, and it focuses on a woman, I think she's actually only a little bit younger than myself, named India Oxenberg. Now, her mother is Catherine Oxenberg, who children of the 70s may remember as the star of Dynasty. Catherine Oxenberg is one of the people we have to thank for the downfall of NXIVM, because she used her political and social power, she's the literal daughter of royalty, to essentially force the hand of the federal agents and make them go after Keith and dig. And it's not just Keith, there are other people that will serve jail time for this. And it's a utter spider's web of human nefariousness. It's insane. But what I really liked about Seduced is that it focuses specifically, this was a highly misogynistic organization. Really what it comes down to is that Keith Raniere created an entire thing to fuel his misogyny and misogynistic sex drive. He created literally a harem of people, and he did it through blackmail and coercion and something they call collateral, because he's a gross man. But because of that, there's some really specific gender dynamics in NXIVM that Seduced specifically explores that The Vow didn't as much. And I've listened to this. The CBC did a podcast call about it. There's been a lot of coverage in the Albany Times newspaper, which has been on this forever, because this all took place in Albany, New York. But Seduced is the first one to really focus on what it felt like to be a woman in a sex cult. And it gives a lot of voices to a handful of women in particular. India is our guide into this world. She talks to some of her former colleagues. And the way that it examines what it feels like to have the water slowly turned up on you, to have something be like, oh, that's a little bit weird, and then they explain the weird, and then they explain the next weird, and how it all works. There's a lot of debate in the academic community about exactly what determines a cult. For my money, there's a couple things that mean that it's a cult versus a new age religion or just an out there group. And one of the biggest ones is that they speak about people who are outside the group as suppressive or wrong, or not just like unenlightened the way a lot of religious groups do, but like actually evil. And then any group, the only group that like excommunicates theologically appropriately is the Amish. They actually have a whole, thing about it. any other group that excommunicates people, it makes me really nervous, like the FLDS arm of the Mormon Church. Scientology makes me really nervous for this. Heaven's Gate did this. Jonestown certainly did this. Or the People's Temple, which was Jim Jones's technical name of his cult. So when you are isolating people, I mean, there's other things too, absorbing all the resources, taking away individual agency. There's lots of things. But for me, two of the absolute key are the isolation of referring to people who disagree with you as suppressive, and then the inability to see people who have left. And that's, for me, one of the ways it tips. And so NXIVM was allowed to see people, but like not really. And suppressives was definitely a conversation. Now, much like a lot of other cults, there are branches of it that seem completely innocuous. And so it's going to be interesting because they didn't access this high level chicanery. So it's going to be very interesting as we move forward a little bit in time. Keith Raniere literally was just sentenced about a month ago now at this point, as people grapple with their very legitimate interaction with this and what they were inadvertently supporting. And that's going to be, I think we're going to get a lot more narratives and a lot more people kind of publicly wrestling with NXIVM. We haven't had a cult unveiling like this without massive death, to be completely honest, in American culture in a while. And back at the beginning of this, I was talking about how most people defected, but there are still folks who didn't. And so that's going to be really interesting too, especially as we're going to get season 2 of The Vow that evidently talks to Keith while he's in prison, where he will be for longer than the rest of my natural life. And I will be honest, I'm incredibly happy about that. So all of this to say, I find it a really interesting microcosm of kind of the worst parts of human nature cults are. And on a human level, I mean, my heart absolutely breaks for these people. Cults not every cult goes after vulnerable individuals who are looking for connection. Most of them actually go after really intelligent, highly connected people that are looking to do good in the world. And then they manipulate and exacerbate that in the worst ways, which is what NXIVM did. And so it's really interesting to sit there and watch and be like, I would have bought that. I would have gone there. Oh, that's probably where I would have tapped out. Because this one in particular is also a multi-level marketing scheme. So it cost a lot of money to become enlightened, which there's a couple others like that as well. Anyway, if you are as fascinated as I am, please tell me in the comments. I love finding other people to talk about NXIVM with, because spoiler alert, Dr. Erin is not one of them. She's not into cults the way I am. So if you're interested in having this conversation on any level, please hit me up in the comments and we will talk about it. Until next time, Dr. Erin and I are going to see you on Wednesday. You have a great November 16th and 17th, and we'll see you on the 18th. Bye.